Okay, let's talk about where you should be in the design process right now for our little project. Remember, we've got a very complex project that you're going to do one part of. So let me give you an example of that. This is a typical design process where at first you're just figuring out ideas and trying some things out and seeing if they match what the requirements are and trying something else out. And as you get closer and closer and closer, every time you look at your design and compare it to the requirements, it gets a little bit more refined and a little bit more refined and a little bit more refined until at the very end you're really working right along exactly what the requirements are, and your concept is done, and then you're ready for detailed design. So that's sort of the process, and we're back here right now. We're just thinking and trying things out and figuring out what's going on. So let's take a look and see what that might look like. So remember, this is a complex project with some, let me go into a 3D view. There's some exterior architecture, there's some civil, there's some landscape, there's some, if I hide this roof for a moment, there's some, you can see in here, well, I'll show you in here. There's maybe some interior design and maybe even on another level. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. And this one is a project that I completed in the past. Didn't really complete, but it's got enough. And of course, it's way too much to do in a couple of weeks. So where should you be right now? Okay, because we're still in that very beginning trying to figure out what's going on phase. So here's where you should be right now. You should have the land mass modeled because we did that in week 4. And you should have a lid feature because we did that in week 4. And you should have some sort of a structure on the place. Now, if you're doing exterior design and exterior architecture, then you just need the original structure and maybe some idea that it's going to have to get bigger. If you're doing interior design, again, you would just have the exterior on it, and you wouldn't have all this other stuff. You'd basically just have the walls, some windows and doors, and that would be it. Now, okay, over week 6, 7, and 8, you'll be developing whatever part of this you're going to do. So really at this point, all you need is the landmass, the bioretention swale, and some sort of a building that gets us started so that you can talk in a design review about how this is going to turn out. So what should you do then? If you're working on civil, civil is what goes on the ground and in the ground. So you would do this portion of it where there's, you know, a parking lot and a place for trash and probably maybe even put in some utility boxes because you know that there's going to be water, power, things like that. And you would have really some of these walkways put in. So it's not too complex, but you would have to have some concept of what the business is to get the parking right and the lighting right. That would be the other thing. If it's a business, you're going to need some exterior lighting. We'll go over those things as part of civil as we go. But what you should have right now is a landmass and a building, because I told the civil people that they need a 2-story building. So that's it. Doesn't have to be anything in the 2-story building. So if you're doing civil, you should have a landmass, a swale, and a 2-story building. And I'll go over what your civil should look like, but you can see on mine that there's parking pad. I decided to put in a pad for, just to show that you could do it, a pad for a tiny home. There's an entryway. There's some porchways. There's a walkway. Civil would include the porch up here and the stairs. And then we'll talk about more things that you can put on as you go. Okay, so that's civil. Okay, you don't need all this stuff yet. You're going to develop it as you go, and you're going to always compare it to the type of development, the type of work-live situation that you're going to design for. Okay, or maybe it's a multiple unit place, and you're going to be the manager of the apartment complex. Okay, or the small condo. Okay, so that's what the civil people would do. Landscapers, you're going to start putting in things like some more bioretention ways and drainage, and benches. And I decided to put in this particular one, there's a little vegetable garden back here and things. So you're going to put in a 2-story building, bank. Okay, and the landscape that supports the business that is going to be used, to be put on the site. Landscape that supports the business that goes on the site. And what you should have now is basically just the landmass and a 2-story building and an idea of what type of business will be there. Then you can put the landscape in. Okay, if you're doing exterior architecture, then you're going to start thinking about things like, and it's live work. So what will the windows and lighting, natural lighting be like on the outside, on the first floor, on the second floor? What will be the ingress and egress look like? What will the windows on the second floor look like? What will the entryway look like? What type of roof will you have? Will you put solar panels on it, which you have to nowadays? Have to on any remodel. And you don't need to go on into the inside at all, but the outside should look right. And people in our area don't build 2-story brick, so you might be working on what's that actually going to look like. You might have some brick up to the first story and something else on the second story, something like that. Okay, so there's your exterior architecture. And then if you're going to put multiple ones of these on the site, how are you going to arrange them? What will they look like on the site? But you don't need, if you're doing exterior architecture, you don't need landscaping. You don't need a parking lot. You don't need cars. You don't need all this other stuff. You just need the exterior architecture of the building, and you have to be able to support and answer questions about how that meets the project requirements. Okay, it all ties back to the project requirements. And that's going to tie back to what type of work-live situation are you proposing for this site, for the client. Hopefully they'll choose yours. Okay, so then if you're doing, so let's see, we've covered civil, we've covered landscape, we've covered interior architecture. If you're going to do, exterior architecture, if you're going to do interior, you're probably going to want to do some sort of interior floor plan and put the furniture in. This is for a recording studio on the downstairs, with a live-work loft up above that would be rented, and a little spot for an extra person to be able to stay. Maybe you got a couple of people in the band or whatever. And oops, I got a few extra things on my drawing here. Let's see if I can get rid of them. Those are a little bit ugly having those in there. These were just things that were left on the model to help me figure things out. So you'd want like a first floor and a second floor, or however you've arranged your live work. Maybe it's still just one floor and something else is going on. Okay, so you would want to be doing something like this with some furniture and things like that. We'll talk about what your views will do and how you'll develop this as a presentation. But right now you're just modeling to get the idea across and get the idea done. Okay, so again, what you should have right now is basically the landmass and some sort of a building without much going on. And now for the next couple of weeks, you'll keep developing what goes in that building. I've also done a couple of things on this one. This is a SketchUp model. This is a SketchUp model. This is Revit, Revit, SketchUp, SketchUp, Revit, 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 SketchUp, 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 SketchUp. So there's a lot of intermixing of my models just to show that you can do that. When we come down here, this is all Revit work to be able to do things like that. And where's my 3D view here? These ones are all from Revit, and I made this bridge out of a ramp. But these are all SketchUp, the picnic table and the vegetable boxes. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea. We're getting closer and closer. We're still in this range here. Okay, we have to do some design reviews where you answer questions back to the requirements to help you focus the design to the customer's needs. Okay, so we're still here. We're playing around. We're doing stuff. Should not be very far developed yet. In week 6, we'll do a little bit more development. And in 7 and 8, we'll get down into this range here where we're zoning that focus in, and we can develop a presentation that is really, really solid and tied back again to the client's desires. And of course, I have to teach you how to do that. Okay, but there we go. That's what's coming up for this project and how it works. Okay, there's a lot of going back and forth, and this may be the first time that you've done a design project. I've done literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these through my design career, mostly in the mechanical world with pumps and valves and support systems for buildings, piping systems, things like that. But they've all followed this type of a thing. Okay? We're still really, really trying to get our ideas in place right now, and we'll let them focus as we come along. So there we go. I look forward to seeing your good work.